And the bike and Emuno, as him coach Riazero, as him na Ubosicata Adrena Emma, give me Boman against it. As no Gadikechi, nature da wagu. Otu anyị kwuru onye akọ ya dịrịrị ise dịka o si dị anyị eje ka anyị gbapụ ya ọsọ ka anyị gosikwa unu ya ji maka ya wee bịa n'ụbọchị nke taa. Ị na-anya ya bụ egwu na-eche ejizi, ya bụ egwu na-adazi kwarapụ maka o si wee dị, anyị ga na-ewetara unu ozi ọbụla na-ekwu gbasara maka Eastern Region and the days of Maazị Nnamdi Kanu n'iru akwụkwọ a. Okay, you na-eji nkịta bụ press brief of the Biafran Prime Minister of Federal Republic of Government of Biafra in Exile, bụ Maazị Simon Ekpa. O were ife okwu n'iru akwụkwọ a. Anyị ma chọkwa unu ga ya bụ ife maka ọnụrụ si mee gịnị si kọrọ nwanne ya, ị ga-esie ya ịdrọpụra anyị kọmentị gị on the comment section below ka efi nwere ike ikwu gbasịta maka ya bụ ife Prime Minister na-ekwu n'iru akwụkwọ a ka efi nwere ike ikwu gbasịta maka ya. All right, over to you, sir.
And let me also make it very clear that the country he mentioned, South Africa and Botswana, were all white-dominated countries in those days, and they come with the influence of the white. So we're talking about Africa country, not those that were white-dominated.
No, but these are all African countries. We may want to go into we may want to go down the rabbit hole of looking into who is the Aborigines, who are those the real indigenous people. That would be another debate for another day.
I would want you to give me an example of one Africa country that is closer to democracy.
What about Senegal? What about Senegal? Can I cite Senegal? Can I cite Ghana? What about Ghana? What about Senegal? Yeah, I've cited two examples. Ghana and Senegal are all examples that we can look up to.
Yes. Can I come in briefly now and say that let's just move on because everything that we have been saying now, we've been going back into history, talking about what has happened in the past. Let us focus on the present because what is important is the now, what is happening today. And today is World Democracy Day. We want to see how young Africans can come together, use such days to promote democracy on the continent, to talk about how they can actually move forward. A lot is happening in Africa. When we talk about democracy today, you, Mr. Simon, and if you agree on one thing is the fact that is power to the people. Do you think that the people in Africa today have the power with them? Mr. Simon?
Is no. The answer is no. From my perspective, the answer is complete no. And I'm going to give you instances. I will always use Nigeria example.
Let me disagree.
In Nigeria today, when you come out as a citizen to demonstrate, you get killed by the military, by the police, as ordered by the leaders who were, democratically elected. Is that a democracy? The answer is no. Does it mean that power belongs to the people? The answer is no. Now, if you go to Nigeria today and say you want to preach Biafra, like I'm doing now, I will get killed.
Mr. Simon, let me just step in now.
Let me explain. When we want to measure democracy based on the power of the people,
yes, Mr. Simon. Mr. Simon.
It's nothing like power belongs to the people in Africa.
Mr. Simon, it's either I'm the one in control of the debate or I am not actually in control. You are talking about the situation on the ground that if you go out today to protest, you'll be killed. But you are also imposing lockdown on young people, young children also.
That's a very wrong word. That's a very wrong word. It is not.
Is that democratic? Because those who do not follow it are being punished.
When you are tyrannic government, you are going to be treated with the same equal measure and equal hand. You are treating the people.
But most of your victims are the citizens. You said the power should be to the people. And most of your victims are citizens. They are not the government.
Did they complain to you?
Let me just chime in here. Let me just chime in here.
Did any Biafra complain to you?
Let me just chime in here before I see.
The people that are complaining are the people who are targeting, which is the government of Nigeria, and they are suffering that particular imposition.
Let me support. I want to support Mr. Simon Ekpa on one point. I believe Biafra borrowed I want to talk about Africa in general, but let me just talk about this because it came up. I believe they borrowed some of the strategies from Amazonia, which was very inclusive, or which is still very inclusive. Ghost towns is for the people, by the people. Boycotts for the people, by the people. Civil disobedience against the tyrannic regimes of Paul Biya of neighboring Cameroon and also Buhari, the former Buhari and now Tinubu of Nigeria, is for the people and by the people. I mean, these are all peaceful strategies.
So Mr. Ivo, let me come in
from Amazonia and what Biafra did not borrow from Amazonia. Amazonia is not the invector, or they did not infect the sit-at-home order. It has been there since ages. So I don't know what the rationale.
Mr. Simon, can I come in here and talk? I'm very, very happy to hear that Mr. Tapang is saying that the ghost town and the lockdowns are for the people and by the people. Do you think that that is what is prevailing in the English-speaking regions of Cameroon today? Let us be honest.
That has been working for the last.
Do you think the people are happy to be in ghost town, to have the ghost town situation that is existing?
Yes,
to
the
have
people are extremely happy and are respecting those strategies, those non-violent strategies. But on the other hand, they are discontented with the barbaric regime of Paul Biya that keeps killing them for sitting at home, that keeps killing them for boycotts, that keeps killing them for civil disobedience. And I've never seen a democracy where people engage in non-violent strategies but are being killed by their own regimes. But that does not mean there is no democracy in Africa. There are other countries that are promoting and engaging in democratic practices. I wish Cameroon should follow this, the likes of Ghana, Senegal, for example, and even Botswana.
Some of the school children are not being killed just by the government forces who are on the ground. Those calling for lockdown, the separatists calling for lockdown.
But this is not verified information. It's not verified.
Also involved. Of course, I am a journalist and I'm covering some of these things happening in Cameroon.
But you, I was also a journalist.
We have the opportunity to correct.
Documented.
Today, Mimi, today, you are giving us the opportunity to bring the fact to the table. So you listen to us while we tell you what is on ground.
But then I bring the question because I am here to coordinate the discussion and bring the question so that people can understand what is happening on the ground. People have to
explain.
Because I am here to ask the question. We have just been joined by Mr. Fabrice Lena. He is a civil society actor in Cameroon. He's a politician. Mr. Fabrice, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
So can you allow us to explain that your question so that everybody
Yes, of course. Of course, you talk about it, but Mr. Fabrice also has to join the discussion. Hello, Mr. Fabrice. How are you?
Yeah, hi, Mimi. Greetings to you. Greetings to Mr. Tapang and Mr. EKPA. Glad to be part of your conversation. I must confess, the conversation is already unfolding and I'm joining late because of one or two issues. Yes, it's an interesting issue to talk about, World Democracy Day. And I have a quite different perspective to look at this because, of course, I am in support of democracy. Democracy is not about continent, it's not about country, it's about humanity, and it's about human beings living within few decades. And of course, it's about constraining human desire to always be at the top and constraining people to feel that the ability to manage a given institution, a given country, population is best taught or embedded in the capacity of maybe a singular person, party, or group of people. So I would like to say that my perspective of democracy is that if it is practiced with and by people of good faith, then of course it will deliver to the people what they request. Good faith here has to do with someone who respects humanity. Basic principles of humanity is just the ability to say I am a leader, and when I get to that position where I'm supposed to be in order to have the powers to decide upon the lives of people, I deliver to the people the basic things that the documents that give me those powers declared or define that I should do. This has to do with public goods, merit goods, welfare. Of course, whether it is the US, where Mr. Ivor is, or the UK, where you, Mimi, are, or whichever part of the world that is, of course, infrastructurally more than the African continents, they also had their own fair share of troubles and fights and struggles in very long times before they could, of course, have these stabilities they are having today as far as infrastructure is concerned, not political stability per se, or not that they are not also facing challenges today, but because history is a process and human stability is a process, infrastructural development is a process. Africa is also passing through that process. You know, when you say democracy is not for Africa, I wonder whether it's the Bali Chamba chiefdoms or the Bayangi custom of having a traditional ruler, the presence or the Igbo community.
Mr. Fabrice, now let me come in briefly now and ask a question. You are in Cameroon. You have visited the northwest, the southwest regions of the country. You have been visiting other parts of Cameroon. When we talk about democracy, do you see democracy on the ground? Do you see democracy in maybe Douala, Yaoundé, northwest, southwest regions of Cameroon? Is there democracy?
Well, the question can be answered on two sides. Firstly, the present regime in place do not respect democratic values, democratic principles, and what characterize a government to be called a democratic government. Right. The regime in place is absolutely out of these criteria, and we cannot, of course, call the kind of governance taking place in Cameroon a democratic one. That is what I should highlight. Whereas we understand that the constitution of Cameroon is functioning within the apparatus of a democracy, and of course, basic elements, or to let's say 1 or 2% of facets of democracy can be seen, as far as perhaps few private media, social media, and individuals are able sometimes to give their voice and say what they feel to say. Daring to say and having the ability to say is one thing, and not having the freedom after saying the thing is another thing. We shouldn't confuse the two. Having a law in place is one thing, and for those in power, not respecting the laws as far as implementation is concerned is another thing. So democracy in Cameroon it's a complete failure as far as respecting the engagement by the parties concerned, which is those governing and those who are to be governed is concerned. It's a failure. However,
yes, also
let me support what Fabrice is saying.
Again, before we move to Mr. Tapang, Ivor, and Mr. Simon, they have also been discussing before you come in. We're actually talking about lockdowns and school boycotts. When you see that happening in the Anglophone regions of Cameroon, is that democracy? Before we go back to them,
I would like to precise something here that be it the Amazonian movement or the Biafran movement or the Cameroon government, I see a lot of loopholes as far as their strategies in leadership is concerned. Loopholes in the sense that there is no organization, institution so independent to confirm the statistics that those who claim are taking decisions on behalf of people can independently say, yes, lockdown is successful because the people have, by this method, proven to accept this decision. That is what we call a colossal decision. In a complex society like Northwest and Southwest, where people have diverse views from different backgrounds, have different daily problems, you cannot authoritatively sit in the different contexts, different environment, different experience over time and say, of course, people are comfortable just by group discussions. Let me learn. Just be patient to listen to me, sir. I've been listening to you patiently too. I'm just learning. Yeah. So I just want to say, you can't sit and say that everyone is comfortable when you have not proven this by any means which is universally accepted, or which can be generally proven, or which is scientifically proven, you know, or even if you want to go by our tradition, which deity will say that, yes, these guys, what they are saying or what they are doing is correct. So it is relative. It varies from person to person. And that's why it does not have any generally accepted method mechanism.
Yes,
Democracy depends on.
There are other measures you can use to. There are other measures you can use to measure the success.
Yes, I mean, you know, it is quite absurd, you know, to sit here and listen to people, you know, drawing some kind of similarity or drawing some kind of references from a freedom fighting movement. And then you want to bring in democracy into it. It's quite absurd. We are talking about state that has gotten independent, and the independent state. We're not talking about a freedom fighting movement. Correct. It's completely different.
Yeah.
And so you don't talk about democracy into it. What we are talking about, how can we delegitimize the government that are oppressing our people within our land? So it is not about democracy. It is when we have gotten our independence, we are going to practice the true democracy that will be drawn from our normal traditional rule models and whatever we want to do it to make it work for us.
So how do you give power to the people? How do you give power to the people?
It is not about, you don't give power to the people during a freedom fighting. You are fighting war.
You're fighting for freedom.
You cannot give power to the people. You need to make sure you control the territory that the enemies and the oppressors are using to kill your people. First of all, control it by any means possible.
Let me come in. The mere fact that we're talking about Ambazonia exists as a nation dating back to 1961, known as the former British Southern Cameroons. I want to go into the nitty-gritties, but Mr. Simon is absolutely right. If we're talking about functional states recognized by the United Nations, non-functional states that have not been recognized but seeking for their self-determination should not even be considered in the debate of a democracy, because we are freedom fighters. We are fighting to have freedom, which is a fundamental tenet of democracy. We are fighting to liberate ourselves, which means we are not even functioning within the so-called democracy. But let's look at it at African level, in general, across Africa. Is there democracy? Yes, there is a gradual movement towards democracy. People are increasingly speaking out. We've seen it in the case of Niger. There is mass mobilization at an African level. Diaspora contributions are also counting in. People are increasingly having mobile phones to counteract, to talk against the government, alternative media. This is exactly where we are driving to. And this is the Africa we want to see. However, we don't support any Western nation that wants to impose its sanctions on us for us to embrace their own ideologies. It would not work that way. That is where we keep having a conflict in democracy in Africa. But let's keep away all these quasi-states and non-functional or non-recognizable states by the United Nations.
Let me come in here to state that Ambazonia, the word, it was Southern Cameroons, and Ambazonia came after the 1980s. In the 1960s,
no, Ambazonia is just a name. It's just an appellation. It's just like Nigeria. Maybe
Ambazonia didn't exist before 1980.
Ambazonia is just a name. We can call it any name. We can call it Mimimefo. We can call it Ivo.
But
Ambazonia's name by nature is the former British Southern Cameroons. Let me use the word former British Southern Cameroons.
Yeah, that was just to clarify the viewers that Ambazonia came later and that before was British Southern Cameroons.
I agree.
Mr. Tabang Ivo, so the question now is, we want power to the people. We want democracy in Africa. We want things to change. We don't want the dictatorship in Africa.
I agree.
How best can we go about it, making sure that the rights, the basic rights of citizens on the continent, the basic rights of people in our respective countries are being respected?
I have a parsimonial solution to this. Very simple. And I believe everyone on this panel will agree with me. The mere fact that we youths are sitting here to talk about democracy is a plus. However, we African youths are interested in using the social media for fashion, showbiz, Gucci, Versace, and all of those. When is the last time you saw African youth without an election phase coming up, without an electoral fraud happening? When is the last time you saw African youths talking about democracy, talking about elections, planning ahead? We never plan ahead. We only wait for when elections come. Then you see a non-social media candidate who has been preparing for the last 5 years or 7 years of his mandate, prop up with some clientelism, buying votes. He becomes the president through a legitimate election. I will explain why. Mr. Paul Biya of Cameroon won the elections legitimately and landslide victory in 2011. Tinubu also won the elections. He could be contested, but he won. Guess what? You cannot sit on the social media waiting for elections to come thinking that, oh, your social media candidate is going to be the president. It will not work that way. Votes don't come through social media. They come from the ground. You have to start preparing for political changes now. You don't need to wait 7 years to come after brandishing your Facebook pictures and the rest, engaging in showbiz and gossip news and the rest without any political participatory approach. You need to start planning now. Simon Ekpa, for example, is planning now for the Biafra he wants to see in future. It's not suddenly that he'll wake up and say, there is Biafra today. No, it's a long process. He has gone through struggles.
Mr.
But the youth must be aware that politics shape our future. And for us to have a bright future,
Mr. Tanko, please. Mr. Tanko, let me disagree with you on one thing you said, that Bola Tinubu won the election. You don't just sit here and begin to make comments on other countries that you know nothing about. You don't know how the process of the election happened in 2023. So you can't sit here and say in Nigeria, Bola Tinubu won the election. He never won the election. He never won the election. Why would he sit here as a freedom fighter telling us how somebody won the election in Nigeria?
He's the president.
He can be a president. That is why we are seated here today to talk about.
Mr. Simon, there is one solution to this. We can go on to disagree and debate whether who won the election. But if we don't prepare now, we will have the same thing in the next 7 years. If we don't prepare now, we will keep complaining and complaining.
So let me come.
Please, Mimi, it is my turn. You called me. And please, Tanko, if you could,
gentlemen, let me come in now.
Bola Tinubu did not win the election. Bola Tinubu,
Mr. Simon, let me come in now to just ask you a question.
Go ahead.
How do we give power to the people? Because you are saying that today we are talking democracy. We want people to have the voice. We want things to work in favor of the people, and that you are ready to do what it takes for African youth to get there. How are you going about it, and what are you doing to make sure that power gets to the young people and that their rights are not being violated in the process?
Thank you very much. I'm going to give you a very straight answer to that. You know, I like this. Please, nobody should interrupt me because this is a very good one. The way we are going to make Africa work and bring true democracy, either the democracy of using our own modus of democracy, like our own cultural and traditional norms, is by losing up, disintegrating Africa along tribal lines. That is number one step. Africa needs to be disintegrated along tribal lines so that you are going to have a nation with like-minded people without anybody having a beef, without anybody not understanding your language, without anybody coming to the table where he is eating rice and you are eating a pandeniam, or that you don't understand what he's talking about when he's discussing with his brother. So we need to disintegrate Africa. This is what Europeans did. And they know the secret to the success of their democracy. Because once you have a divergent, if you have a diversity that is a very dangerous one, it can never work. Because everybody will want to, he wants something he wants for his people to happen. And it may be going the other way, conflicting the interest of the other. So for us to move forward in Africa, we need to begin to understand what did the Europeans do? What did the Europeans do to come to where they are today? They disintegrated along tribal lines. That's why in Scandinavia today, They have different languages. As smaller as they are independent. The Soviet Union fell and everybody disintegrated because they could not stand the heat of the diversity. When the diversity becomes so dangerous, it is what is happening in Africa today. So for us to move forward, please, for us to move forward, like I said, we start from, I have been saying it, that Biafra is going to be the beginning of true democracy in Africa. And I repeat, I'm standing here to say it again, because in Biafra, once Biafra is actualized and becoming an independent state, we are going to have a loosed up confederation of Biafra, where every tribe, if I will use the word tribe, or every ethnic group that finds himself in Biafra will have independence and will have autonomy. They are going to have their own law.
Yes, Simon, let me ask you another question here.
That is the only way. That is the only way and the only time. Democracy.
Okay, Mr. Simon, are you saying that all the Igbo people should think alike?
I disagree.
No. It is not about everybody, Igbo people thinking alike. No, but we have one common thing. We have one thing in common: progress, progressive, success.
Can I speak?
Okay? The issue now is, how do we attain progress? It becomes the issue to be debated. It becomes the issue to be debated within the government. Okay?
Yes,
we have to these policies are moving clearly. These policies were
then has to talk a little bit before we come to.
Can you just stop interrupting, please? Every Igbo man wants to have a good road. Every Igbo man wants to go to a good school. Every Igbo man wants a good hospital. Every Igbo man wants a good life. So how do you bring it, to the people? It becomes the issue of debate. It becomes the politics we're going to play. So it is not about everybody we have like mind. Our like mind is that we are progressive and we want to progress. So whatever that is going to bring on the table to make us progress and attain that thing we want is what everybody want to follow. And you don't have any. Now in Nigeria today, the reason why we are saying let us have autonomy in Nigeria, they say no. Because Igbo people want they want good road, they want good hospital, they want international airport. We travel a lot. White people in the north don't travel. They don't go anywhere. If they want to travel, they go to Saudi Arabia. So there is nothing in common. They are not progressive. They are nomadic. Why we are progressive? We want to live in good house. They don't live in good house. They live in the bushes. How do you progress with such kind of diversity? It is absurd. Some people want school. The other people in the north don't want to school. They don't want to study. We have what we call quota system in Nigeria, where somebody in the south will get 200 cutoff mark to study law. He cannot get admission into the university. While somebody in the north will get 80, and he will be admitted. So these are the problems.
I don't think we should tribalize this debate.
Yes,
let's look at it from the African perspective. Let's not tribalize this debate.
Simon, I would disagree here with you. No, I would have to disagree with you, because we also have citizens in the far north region of Cameroon. And in Cameroon, the far north region is one of the, I should say, the places in the country where illiteracy rate is very high. Development is almost inexistent. There are bad roads. Access to potable water is not even possible. And then we have Boko Haram also in the far north region. So because of this situation, you cannot say that it is existing because the people do not want development. It's because of bad governance. And that is why.
And who are the governors? And who are those governing?
The government, those in
Please,
power.
can we stop tribalizing the debates? Let's look at it from the African perspective. There are other countries. There are other countries we can talk about. Please.
You need to have a society. Where
gentlemen, Mr. Fabrice Lena is also part of this panel, and Mr. Ivor talked earlier about the need for people to come together, knowing that if they want a particular person to lead the country, they should make sure that it happens. It shouldn't be happening on social media. It should not be happening on Facebook. It should not be happening on Twitter and so on and so forth. Fabrice Lena is a politician, a grassroots politician in Cameroon. He's been advocating for change. He's a political analyst. He's been doing a lot on the ground. Mr. Fabrice, I am sending this question to you to find out from you, what should politicians in Africa do to make sure that this actually happens? That leadership doesn't only end at the level of social media.
He who is courageous enough should stay back in his country and fight the enemy within. If you die in the process, that is the price to pay as a freedom fighter. And that's the message I want to send to anyone who is a freedom fighter or who calls himself a freedom fighter, whether you come from Cameroon, from South Sudan, from Angola, from Mozambique, or wherever in the continent. I have dared to stay in Cameroon, in Yaoundé.
Ndị ba ekene m unu ọzọ. Asị m daalụ nne na ụmụ Chineke ka unu si wee na-esoyere anyị n'ife anyị na-eme. Ama m na ife anyị na-eme dị unu mma. Kabalụ ka ị drop your own comment gbasịta maka ife ị nọ n'elu akwụkwọ a. Gbasịta maka ihe Biafran Prime Minister Maazị Simon Ekpa-kwugasị. Ama m na ị nụrụ ya ọfụma. Then if his own point of view ebe ọ na-alụtagasị aka ọtago dịka ị nọ ya bụ ife ka ife nwere ike ikwu n'ụdị nke gị n'echiche nke gị na ntụkọ nke gị ka ife nwere ike ikwu gbasịta maka ya bụ ife ka barụ ka ị drọpụrụ anyị ya on Eastern News 24. Daalụ n'ụmụnne m nwa nke mesịa.